Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety. I want to let you know the SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA artists with basic needs like rent, food, and healthcare costs during this global pandemic and industry shutdown. Information on how you can support this effort can be found in the description of this video. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Lesley Manville. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's lovely to be talking to you again.
Always
we're veterans at this, aren't we?
Yes, and you were also kind enough at the Newport Beach Honors to share your appetizers with me. I really appreciate that.
Always. Listen, if a girl can't share her appetizers, she's not worth spending the evening with.
Well, you had this table that was like laid out with all this food, and I was like, oh, I want the Lesley Manville table from now on. This is primarily an audience of SAG-AFTRA actors who watch these. So I actually always like to start by asking, what was your first job in the industry? The first time you sort of felt you could call yourself a professional actress?
Oh, wow. Well, we'd have to wind back the clock quite a bit to when I was 16. I was fresh out of stage school and I had a good singing voice. So my first job was a musical in the West End of London called Iron Albert. It was about Queen Victoria and it was directed by John Schlesinger.
What?
I know. How amazing is that? He, as you know, he didn't really do theatre that much. I mean, he did do some other theatre, I think. But anyway, this was a musical. How he came to be directing it, I don't know. But he gave me my first job, age 16. And as the years went on and we, bump into each other socially, he was always very pleased that he'd kind of got me going and launched my career.
I'm unpacking this. I didn't know he directed for stage. I didn't know you really did musicals. I mean,
well, I didn't. I haven't really done musicals since then. I've done films where I've had to sing, and I can sing, and I think there is a feeling, certainly my agent would be very pleased if I said, yes, let's do a musical. I mean, I would like to flex that muscle again properly one day. So I say one day, I need to sort that out if I'm going to do it fairly soon. But no, I would love to. But that was my first gig. Yeah, a musical with John Schlesinger. It's not a bad start.
I'm mentally going through all the musicals I want to see you in now. Actually, there's a musical version. I was fortunate enough. The last play I got to see before the shutdown was You Were in the Visit.
Yes.
Phenomenal. And there is a musical version of that.
Is there?
There is.
Okay.
I think, was it Cheetah Rivera did it?
Oh my goodness. Yes, of course there is. I'm saying, is there? Yes. I didn't see it, but I certainly was aware of it.
Yeah.
Yes, Cheetah Rivera did it. Yeah, right. I mean, we did the Tony Kushner's adaptation of the original Dürrenmatt play, and it was pretty epic. Well, you saw it.
It's amazing. Was it? I'm sorry. Was it 4 hours long?
It didn't feel 4 hours long. It was 3. It was nearly 4 in previews, and then we got it down to 3.5. But I hesitate to say that is the only way to describe it, because I mean, obviously people did go on about the length of it a bit, but I thought it earned every minute, frankly.
Minute, yeah. No, I actually saw it in previews, and I'm telling you, I came out of that theater thinking 45 minutes had gone by. It was so epic with you had this giant cast and this giant band, and I was with it for every second. It could have gone another 4 hours.
It was an epic evening. It really was. And I think every department in it came up to scratch. It was a brilliant design, brilliant script by Tony Kushner, of course. And, it's a really epic play. It's big, and it needs to be told with broad brushstrokes. And, you could have done a 2.5 hour version of it probably, but, we didn't do that, and we embraced its length, and we did. Yeah, you saw the full 4 hours. Yeah. We did get half an hour off of it.
I can't imagine how. My only previous experience was I had seen a 90-minute version called Claire Z. that was
Oh,
an adaptation, and I'll take the 4-hour version any day.
well,
I
it's such
promise
a
you.
great part, isn't it? I mean, Claire Zachanassian is this character. She's the world's richest woman. I mean, what's not to like about playing that part?
I actually thought of her while watching Let 'Em Go, which is your new movie. And this feels like a very different role for you. You're playing a, if I may be blunt, frightening Southern matriarch, rules with an iron fist, named Blanche Weeboy, which is just a great
Yes,
character name.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I was thinking, a lot of actors don't like to see their characters as villains. And I was thinking, like, Claire Z could be considered a villain, but there's so much that happens to her and so much that you can understand and have compassion for.
Mm.
Blanche, on the other hand, how did you sort of find her
Yes.
that character?
Well, you're right. I mean, she's not a character who people are going to come out liking. They may enjoy her. They may, and she is. There's a kind of, she's deliciously evil in a way, isn't she? This North Dakota mama who, nothing is going to cross into her family and pull it apart. And it's motherhood at its worst, really. Well, I think with parts, same as I always do, really. I mean, you do all the research. I knew quite a lot about that period. I seem to have been doing a lot of things that have taken part in the 50s. Phantom Thread, The Visit. So it's not an unknown period for me. Obviously, the accent in this was key, and I worked with William Conacher in England, who's a brilliant dialect coach who I've worked with since, and I am going to be working with again, to get that accent just right, because I wanted to really go there with that sound, because it's quite a particular sound. And then you kind of think about how she looks, and I talked to Tom Bazooka, the director, and the hair and makeup team about a peroxide blonde wig that would have dark roots, because I kind of felt that this woman who thinks she's something that she sort of isn't, she thinks that she's this blonde bombshell, and it's all of her the influences that she's taken from the movies of the 30s and 40s that she'd have watched and grown up watching, and that it should have that kind of I think there's something about Blanche that's a bit grubby. Yes, all the fingernails are red, the lips are red, but I reckon that she's not actually that hygienic, and certainly her kitchen wasn't very clean, and there's a kind of slightly unsavory feel about her. And you kind of think all these things, but of course, at the end of the day, you can think and think and think and think, but the day comes when you get on set and you actually have to deliver. And as much as you've collaborated and been around brilliant people who help you with all those ingredients that you put into the mix, including the costume, which I thought particularly for that opening scene was just spot on, and the jacket later on that she wears. At the end of the day, you've got to go in there and just, action, open your mouth and start being this person. And at that point, I guess an awful lot of experience and instinct kicks into place, and you just hope that the gods are shining on you that day, and the acting gods are shining down on you, and that it all comes out, as you expected. I mean, we don't want to give away too much about it and present too many spoilers, but there is a great opening image, the moment when Blanche is revealed to you. It was really choreographed, and Tom was telling me how he'd set it up, how he'd taken great care and gone to great pains to get this overhead light over the dining table just at the right height, so that Kevin Costner and Diane Lane could walk into the scene and it's all a bit dark and gloomy, and they think, well, is there somebody there? Isn't there? It's all a bit dark. And then she kind of leans out from underneath this lamp with the cigarette, and has such a great opening line, which is, I hope you like pork chops. I mean, not really a line that you would think would be particularly scary. And it's not that it's scary, but it's because of the setup, the lighting, the mood, that music, and they come in and she's all kind of strange. And you know that trouble lies ahead. You know that this is going to be, whoa, just, what's going to happen here? Because this is an unpleasant woman. And although she's being all kind of, coming to my home, let's eat some pork chops, let's have dinner, come and drink at my table, it's not going to be comfortable. And her, her boys, her big, heavy sons come in, and then her younger son comes in, who's married, Kevin and Diane's ex-daughter-in-law. And of course, the reason they're there is because they're worried about the safety, not just of her, but of their, 4-year-old grandson. But it becomes very apparent that, this boy now has married into the wee boy family, and he is their property. And although Kevin and Diane are blood relatives of this boy, Blanche is not going to give him up easily. Well, she's not going to give him up, full stop. And it all gets dark and unpleasant.
And they really build up the legacy of the Wee Boy family before we ever even meet them. You hear about them. They're sort of legendary. So when you do make that entrance, there's already so much dread and literal darkness in the room.
Yes, that's right. You know that there's trouble ahead. Yeah. But yeah, it was I was really bold. I mean, we're always pleased to be offered a job. We're actors. We're always pleased to be asked to do something. But honestly, when Tom got in touch and offered me this, I mean, it was thrilling because, my profile in the States is most predominantly, I know there's all the Mike Leigh films that I've made, but they're British films. But so predominantly people have known me more recently from Phantom Thread, which, yes, is an American film, but, I'm playing English in it and it's an English story. But this was an American film set in America, although we shot it in Calgary. And Tom was just adamant that he wanted me to play it. And I really and truly don't know how many hoops he had to swing through to convince them to that it should be me. But the fact that it came my way was genuinely thrilling. And it's just been a great experience.
I mean, I can't imagine two more different characters than Cyril Woodcock in Phantom Thread and Blanche Weeboy in this movie. But also you're a very, very highly regarded actor here. Like it doesn't surprise me that much, but I guess I'm a little curious. When was the last time you did audition for a role?
I don't wish to sound blasé but the truth is I can't remember.
Good.
Quite a long time, I think. Quite a long time. I mean, I wouldn't have been at all surprised if I had been asked to audition for Phantom Thread or for Let Him Go, because they're American projects. But I think that Paul Thomas Anderson, he just knew he wanted it to be me. So that was that, and so did Tom. But I would be quite prepared for that to happen with an American film, because why not? I mean, in England it's a bit different. I have been acting for many decades, and people know me. And frankly, if they haven't seen much of my work, why are they thinking about me for something anyway? So, but I don't take any of this privilege for granted, and I have paid my dues, and I have put in the many, many decades of having to, prove what I can do. But I think it's also slightly different in England. I not for young people, maybe, but I talk to actors of my generation or a little bit younger who aren't British, and I'm learning that testing and auditioning is much more prevalent than it is for my generation in England.
I really think that once you're awarded an OBE, you should never have to audition again. Like you receive the honor and they're like, that's it, you're set for life. Anything.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm glad, because I can tell you now, when I did used to audition, I did not do it well. I really don't. And lots of my friends who are much younger, who still have to do all this, self-taping, and they're auditioning with one of these, you just think, oh my God, that's just, it's impossible. It's an impossible ask.
Yeah.
How can you do that? I'm not even very good at, you call them table reads, we call them read-throughs. I'm not really any good at those, because anyway, but listen, I hopefully those days are gone, but I don't take it for granted. I really don't.
It really is a different skill than actually being on a set or a stage and playing the role. It's sort of strange, but I guess it's the best system we have right now.
Yes, but it's not just a COVID situation. It's been that's how people have been testing and auditioning for quite some years now. And I think that nothing beats getting people, get them in the room, get them acting and collaborating with a writer, a director, other actors. It's it's an atmosphere, it's a feeling, it's what passes between you. The clinical nature of auditioning on a phone, I find it very hard to understand what people can glean from that about somebody's talent. And you need to talk to people about, you need to understand an actor's intelligence, their take on something. It's a dialogue, it's a conversation. But I know it's a rarity these days to get that, to actually get in the room and really talk about a part.
Yeah, even more so now. Yeah.
But more, well, you can kind of understand it now, this terrible phase that we're in. It's the only way, but yeah, it's not ideal. It really isn't ideal. And nobody likes doing it. They all hate it. Anyone listening, they all hate doing it. They all want to get in the room, take the time, do it properly.
And yeah, I have to imagine, I mean, especially in Let Him Go, you're working with, some amazing actors. I'm curious about what it's like, not just sharing scenes with Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, but did you ever feel bad for terrorizing them as your character?
No, I loved it. And they were so lovely, both of them. I mean, I was kind of thinking beforehand, right, okay, I see calm here. I see calm. Going to be with Kevin and Diane, who obviously their careers I've been following and watching for decades. But they were both so warm and gentle. And, the thing is, I've not done any action films, really. No, never. Really? I mean, I said to Kevin, I've never even held a gun, let alone pretended to shoot somebody. So, there was a stunt team, obviously. There was a stunt team, but he's so good at all of that. I mean, there's a lot of very physical stuff going on in this film, and two of the scenes especially are a big kind of fight choreographed sequences. So there was a lot to do. And because he's so experienced in all of that, he's throwing ideas around, he's throwing himself around. And I said to him, look, Kevin, I have to tell you now, I've never even held a gun in my life. So he was teaching me how to hold it, how to point it, how to look like I was somebody who'd had been holding a gun ever since she was 3, but he did have to admit that in the end, I really, really did hold the gun pretty well and, did the whole thing. And I did my own stunts. I mean, they weren't massive stunts. I wasn't jumping off buildings, but, they were quite big stunts for me. I've never done anything like it. I had to have these little pellet things. I've forgotten what they're called when it's a bit of a spoiler, but I don't know. Yes, that's it. It's the squibs. I'd never had squibs before, which are sort of put, well, all those SAG members who are watching, all the actors will know. But I'd never had one, so that was really exciting. So I had to, react to all of that, and you do get this kind of punch in the back when they get exploded, and then I had to fall through the door into a room full of flames, and it was so exciting. I mean, I'm a very physical person anyway. I'm not physically awkward or shy, and I'm not worried about throwing myself around. So I really went for it, and I loved it. But yeah, I mean, being on set with Kevin, who's just a master at all of that. And Diane's done it a few times as well. But again, she's very lithe and, limber. So she was doing the whole thing too. But they were such lovely people. I mean, you're in Calgary, we're all staying in the same hotel, but the young people in the film too, who are just brilliant. Kaylee Carter, Will Britton, Kaylee Carter, brilliant actors, and we had such a nice time. Off screen as well. I listened to some of Kevin's sounds. He's with his band, and he's a pretty good singer as well.
Really? That's not fair. He shouldn't be so good at so many things.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, we were, sharing little headphones when we were sitting on the offset and just listening to some nice music. It was good. It was really good. So I had a great time.
It sounds like offset was nice in this case, but you have played so many intense roles. I'm curious if you're the sort of actor who sometimes takes your work home with you. Do you have trouble decompressing sometimes? Especially when you're doing a play twice a day.
Yes. Well, look, I think I'm blessed with not suffering from that, because I wouldn't want to do that. And I do think it's partly because when I was young, when I was in my 20s, I met Mike Leigh and started working with him. And, we've worked together, many times over the decades. And, as most of the members will know, his work, he's very, very involved and completely about absorbing yourself in a character, and you create the character together with him over many, many months, even before you start to do improvisations and develop the story and eventually the script. So you're very in character, but you've always got to have your own antennae on the go, because after the improvisations, you will have one-to-one conversations with Mike Leigh and decode it all and have a debrief and talk about what the character was thinking and why she said this, why she said that. So I suppose I've got very familiar with that discipline of, yes, when I'm in character, I'm really in it, and I am. But then when you're not, it's gone. And that kind of learning, I suppose, that I've developed with Mike over the decades, I've carried through, because I would not want to play Mary Tyrone, which I did in Long Day's Journey and Tonight, and take that character home, or Mary in Another Year, or Blanche. I don't want her clogging up my brain at the end of the day. But no, but listen, honestly, acting's hard enough, and whatever suits you. If you need to stay in character and it helps you, fine, that's what you need to do. And I've worked with Daniel Day-Lewis, obviously, who very much likes to stay in character. Well, that's absolutely fine. I've got nothing but respect for everybody's working methods and whatever mechanisms they need to get them to deliver a performance, because it's hard enough. So whatever it takes, whatever gets you through the night, do it. But personally, for me, I can see that character very separately from myself, and I'm only too happy to leave them behind at the end of the day.
Yes, although I hope you kept some tips from Blanche on making pork chops, because they did look really good. The kitchen didn't look great, but the pork chops looked great.
Listen, I didn't have to eat any of them, but there were two guys playing Blanche's elder sons, and they must have eaten like half a pig. by the end of that week. We took quite some days to shoot that opening scene because it's a long and sprawling scene.
Yeah.
And they come into it, you know, starving, having worked on the land all day. They were eating pork chop. I know Blanche didn't eat any, but she was smoking quite a lot. When I'm not a smoker, but I can do it quite successfully. But yeah, it was a lot of cigarettes smoked.
I'm curious because you've done every medium. In fact, I don't know. Have you started work yet on The Crown? I know you're playing Princess Margaret.
No, I don't start that till next year. I'm currently in Budapest filming Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, which is a really gorgeous story, again set in the 50s, about a cleaning lady from London who gets, it's a really lovely feel-good film. She gets this dream, this notion that she wants to buy herself a Christian Dior gown. And all these wonderful things happen, that curious things and sort of unimaginable things happen to her that somehow or other get her the money together. So she goes to Paris to get this Dior gown, and then the adventure really begins. So I'm shooting that now in Budapest. But no, The Crown will be later next year. And I'm going to do the play Princess Margaret in the final 2 seasons.
That's so cool. What's it like being back on sets in this era?
Well, yes, it kind of feels like the safest place to be. You know, I think they're more worried about me when I go on the subway here and when I go and do my grocery shopping. And I can understand that, because you don't know how tested the people are around. Well, they're probably not tested. When we're on a film set, you know, we're all tested 3 times. You know, every morning everyone's temperature is taken. 3 times a week we have COVID tests. Everyone's wearing masks except for the takes. So it's incredibly safe. I mean, I did a scene the other day with 100 extras, and you know, they'd all been tested for the week leading up to their one day of being on set. So you know, every box is ticked. You know, everything's sanitized. The props master who's giving me my personal props, he's sanitizing his hands before he handles any. So it does feel like the safest place to be. And the sweetest thing actually that's I've found really very touching is this lovely Hungarian crew, and we're in our 4th week now of shooting. We're here for another 4 or 5 weeks, but I've only ever seen their eyes, and so I've got whole relationships with lovely people who smile at me with their eyes. And the other day, the weather was quite good, so we managed to eat lunch outside. So for the first time, obviously you've got to take your masks off to eat. They were sitting distanced from each other, but of course they had to take their masks off to eat. And we've always been eating inside normally, and I saw all these faces, and it's weird what your mind does when you don't know what somebody's nose and mouth and jaw looks like. I think it's a really interesting study that somebody could do, because I think without knowing it in your subconscious, you decide what that person's face looks like, and you completely detail it. And then when you finally see it and it isn't what you thought, you almost don't recognize them.
Wow.
And in fact, the makeup lady, the head of makeup, who again, I'd only seen like that, she walked into the makeup wagon the other day, and as she walked in, she was putting her mask back on. She'd been having her breakfast. So I had a glimpse of this face, and as she walked in, I thought, who's that? I've been looking at her every day for 4 weeks, but I just didn't recognize her because I was seeing her entire face. There's something rather charming about it. But I think it's not as I thought it would be, a cold and sterile experience. And that some of the warmth and camaraderie that you feel on set would be missing. But I can genuinely say it isn't. It feels, because people are talking still, obviously. So it's nicer than I thought. It's a nicer experience than I thought it would be, and I certainly feel safe.
That's so fantastic. And that movie sounds amazing. I'm very anxious to see it.
Oh, yes.
Before we go, I want to remind everyone that you can see Let Him Go in theaters on November 6th. And on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I want to thank you so much for being here today, for sharing your experiences with your fellow artists. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been lovely to talk to you again.